Here is a look at your gap and go trades for the week of November 11th through the 15th. I will go over price targets on the 5-minute time frame, have a gap recap from November 4th through the 8th, and update my chart as well. Hi everyone, it's Dow on the Dow. First up is Sofi. We ended the week at $13.01. Up 9.33%. This is where we are. We are at resistance. The next level of resistance would take us to $13.17. This is a potential take profit area. To the south side, back at support, or at least one level of support at 1289, the middle of the trend, the baseline, and the median, $12.60. If we make it to this level, I will anticipate a bounce at support. And then another level of support, -2 standard deviations at 1231, 1216, and roughly 1201. This is an old price target according to the analysts. Back on August 31st, the target was $12. And that was a 50% return from when I looked at it. So we have sliced through that. So congrats if you're in this trade. And I want to mark out the middle of the trend right there. If we continue to go up, because this is an upward channel that we are still in on the 5, we could end at the middle of the trend at the end of the week. Could take us to $12, right? $14. And that, my friend, is the next price target, or roughly, let me show you, $14. And when I tracked this a long time ago, let me see if I can take you back to $14. Back on July 15th, 2023, Tip Ranks said the 1-year price target was $14. And we are basically just going to retrace to that level. Let me show you this on the daily. It's going to look like a hot mess because I've looked at this so many times. Okay, on the daily look, we fell down. Okay, grinded sideways. And then didn't make it. When I looked here on July 15th, that's where the price target was. So we've gone all over the place with this ticker. Ugh. Anyway, these are the weeks that I have been tracking for the gap and go trades. So look at this, all the way here, back to support, and then retracing. The 52-week high is 1301, which we just hit on Friday, but the all-time high, it was 2833, it looks like. Yeah, I think that's it. All right, I digress. Back to the 5. I have a lot of tickers to go through, so I will make this quick, at least try to be faster. Okay, this is the period I'm looking at from this period on Monday to Friday within this week. That's all I'm tracking. And then giving you the price target for Monday. But if you continue to use these lines to help you figure out where we could go, that could be a swing trade for the week. All right, as far as gaps go, the previous week, this gap opened up, is still in play for the upcoming week, taking us down to 1143. So watch out for that landmine to the south side. We are overextended on the 5-minute. So you can see that. Let me move this out of the way. We haven't curled over just yet, but you can expect it. Just look left. Anytime we get overextended, we slam back down. It's going to happen again. You're going to have to work for it. Protect your money with stop losses if you can't stomach that ride that will whip you around. Okay, the next one after that takes us down to 1092, not in the channel, not in the zone, not even close. We are still in an upward channel. Note here, bounce at support, 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 support. I'm just showing you clear levels of support at either -2, -3, or -4 within those ranges. And then obviously many other levels of support and resistance in between. Turn on your Bollinger Bands, your VWAP, trend lines, patterns, whatever you like to play. Okay, the next one is Tsla. Riding high ever since the election. This is so fantastic. Okay, let me give you some price targets. Middle of the trend and the baseline takes us to roughly 327.96, 340.84, 347.73, and 354.75. And where? Oh, yeah, that's crazy to think that we could be hitting into the 460s there. I don't know. Fingers crossed. Okay, to the south side, and then I'll go over the gaps in a moment. Move this. Yeah. Support 314.80, 307.96, 301.57. We've got this gap to the downside. That was the day after the election. So here's the election, and then we gapped up big time, finally. Okay, and then we've got this gap taking us down to 214, and then this gap roughly 201.51 or 65-ish. Let me see if there's anything else to clean up. And then we have this other gap to the downside, roughly in the 144 range. As far as this gap, I need to clean this up. Again, I just extend these gaps. I have no idea when it's going to touch. And we did the day after the election. Touched it right, well, on Thursday, I should say. Okay, so that took us to 291.06. Even if there was not an election, that was a target that I was tracking just to fill that gap. So that is done, no longer in play. These gaps are done as well. And then the next gap I'm tracking will take us to 405.84. Let's just move this over here. Not in the channel just yet, not least for Monday, but if we continue northward, that could touch on right there. That would be Thursday. Maybe, maybe, maybe. All right, that's Tsla. Here's support, resistance, falling back down. Resistance here, going sideways, just making a little leg up. Oh, so the middle of the trend, the last time I looked at it last week was right here. So that is 247.99. And if we make it to the middle of the trend for this week, that would be an increase of 32%. But from the low here of last week to the high of last week, that was a 37% increase. That's a nice swing trade. Or if you're letting it ride like I am, it's been fantastic. All right, the next one I want to go over. Okay, I'm going to move along quickly here. Tsly. The yellow lines are the middle of the trend lines that I am tracking for each week that this is still in my gap and go trades. Okay, 1466 is the middle of the trend. Above that, 1508, 1533, and back at 1555-ish. Yeah, I did buy some up here a long time ago, and I should have sold. Oh, wait, maybe I did sell out. I don't know. I'll look at that later. Well, let me just see. Did I sell out? Yeah, I've got to look at that later. It's just, it'll take too long. So I did buy in at 1257 and 1292 as well. I did sell at 1598, so I don't think I have those shares left. Okay, to the south side, back at what was once the middle of the trend, the median, 1416, 1395, and 1372. And the middle of the trend last week, did I mark it? Or I think it's this, wow, right here. So we went from 1174 to 1439, which is a 22% return. Congrats. Okay, let's clean up this hot mess now. This is a gap to the downside because we gapped up. So that will fill eventually to the downside at 1201, but right now still in an upward channel, moving farther away from this gap closure. This is a gap that's still in play as well, and so is this one. And are there more? No. That I'm tracking? No. Okay, so this gap, that would close out at 1281, did right there, the day after the election. Okay. So that's 1281, no longer in play. Delete. Okay. And then I was also tracking this gap here at 1363. And where did we touch? Right there on Thursday. So congrats, done at 1367. Oops. Command Z if you did something wrong and you want to redo something or undo something. So I will delete this one as well. Okay, and then the other one I was tracking was a gap to the north side at 1413, and that touched right there on Friday. So congrats on that one to the upside. And then what else? Is there another one? Okay, I am tracking another one that will take us to 1647, and that's when I will probably sell out of everything. Well, we'll see. And are there more gaps to the north side? I'm tracking. Nope, that's it. Okay. And then this is a previous middle of the trend, so we could go in this range as well. There's so many ways to play this, but we're going in an upward channel right there. 1647. Let me mark this out. Just thinking about what I'm gonna do here since I am in this trade. All right, next one is Rivn. Wait, did I mark? I did mark. Yeah, right there. So at the end of the week, if we continue our journey northward, that could take us to 1890. That would be amazing. Fingers crossed. Don't hold your breath though. Everyone is just so tired of inflation, the bad economy, and if you've looked at your long-term accounts, my account exploded. Unbelievable. So I'm so thrilled, and I hope you guys are also making some money here. Okay, $10.71, $11, $11.31. To the south side. I know this is hard to see. I'm going to move this out of the way. This is the middle of the trend for this week, unfortunately. Okay, so that's going to take us to 10.10. And then below that, 9.49, 9.20, and 8.89. The middle of the trend for last week was 10.16. Now we're at 10.10. It's going down, but not as severely. And as a matter of fact, the channel itself is going ever so slightly up. RSI overextended, so I do anticipate this to come down. And price, I always know typically will stay in the range of -2 and 2 standard deviations. And obviously those calculations constantly change, so you have to pay attention to that, because TradingView, I'm on the 5, so it's going to be calculating every 5 minutes and updating. So just be aware of that. So we've got this gap that takes us down to 9.73. I have no idea where it's going to touch, but that is still doable for this upcoming week. And okay, so this gap, let me see here, from the previous week. All right, this needs to be cleaned up. We gapped up. I anticipate it to fill to the downside, and it did. No longer a threat to our account at 10.21. Bye-bye. Okay, and then we had this gap down, so then I anticipate a gap up to fill, and look at that. That touched at 10.54. So again, wait a minute, let me see something. Oh, yeah, oops, no, this is the wrong color. No wonder I'm a little off here. There. So we gapped up. That needs to be changed. I knew there was something off. Okay, so we gapped down, then I anticipate to fill up, and it did there at 10.53. That should have been green, but now I'm going to delete that. And then that was at resistance, took us back down to support, and off of that gap, support, a bounce off of that. Use your gaps as support and resistance as well. Again, many levels of support and resistance. And we are here at resistance, and then we could go down to here and then bounce up to get back up to this area. Okay, let me just move that there a little bit. And what is the target to the upside? So the next target will be 1747. Not in the channel, not in the zone, not even close. Just something to be aware of. And then these are all targets, the yellow lines. Okay, NNE, nano nuclear energy. I've only started tracking this recently. All right. Oh, I did do a nuke update, so I'm going to keep this one fast since you can see more of it in my other video I just did. 23.33 roughly, 24.54, 25.17, and then this gap 25.94 closing out at 26.92, 22.05, 21.42, 20.72. This gap takes us down to 15.59. Not in the channel, not in the zone, moving farther away from this gap closure because we were going up. This gap got closed out. And this one is still in play as well, taking us to roughly 1795. And this gap, I'm gonna move, oops. So that is a gap right there. So we touched on that gap. No longer a threat, done 1847 to the south side. This one, 1559, I'll just erase that. And then other gaps to be aware of to the south side. Scary, nasty. But also consider an opportunity should we ever retrace to those levels as a potential buy-in if you still believe in the stock when it goes to that level. But right now we are in an upward channel. You're going to get different buy and sell signals on the daily, the weekly, and the monthly. Check the RSI. All right, 26.92 is the target again. Oh, and then the 1 year price target is 58. Okay, next one. I've got to move this along here. I have to go watch Yellowstone. Okay, 83.31 is where we ended for PayPal, up 2.04%. The middle of the trend takes us to roughly 83.25, 84.30, 84.84, and 85.35. Should we be so lucky as to get to this level, I will anticipate a sell-off as people buy, as they lock in their profits and leave. They will lock in and they will leave. And then if we go down, that turns into support on the way down. 82.22, 81.66, 81.14. This gap still in play, taking us down to 79.31. This gap to the upside, look at this, 83.45, and the day's range was 83.07. Almost there. Could we get there on Monday? Yes. And then we can be done with that. Let's take a look at this one. What's happening here? It touched on Tuesday, election day. Look at that. Making higher highs. Delete. Delete, finally, because this thing has whipped us around. And what's going on with this one? This gap touched on the day after election as well. Look at that. All it took was a new president. Delete. We have been unburdened by what has been. I would laugh and do the cackle, but I don't want to scare you. Okay, that took us, that was up, and then we gapped down. So that closed out at 80.87. No longer in play. What else is going on? Okay, and then the target after, is there another target I'm track? That might be it. I mean, there could be more, but when I hopped on to do this for my gap and goes, I started at a certain point for the gaps, and this will be probably taken out by this week. This is the daily. I've tracked this many times in the past, but just again recently for the gap and go trades, but just for giggles. The target, okay, we're at 83.01. It's hard to see. 83.01. So then the next target will be 87.59. And should we be so lucky, 92.24 to the upside, and to the downside, because there's always a downside. You better believe it. To the south side, in the big picture, taking us down right here, back to the baseline, 73.58. And then if we just go down a little bit more, if we're going to get there, I know this will get taken out at 73.19. But right now we are in an upward channel, slightly on the daily. And those are my previous buy-in lines. I think I sold out of those too already, but I still have PayPal. I don't know where I am. I've got to take a peek. Alrighty, and to the south side, 66.24. Okay. But I don't track gaps to the south side. I'm only tracking gaps to the north side. I'm just pointing them out for you. But once they close out the gaps that I'm tracking, they get removed from my list, and then I add new tickers. So if there's a ticker you want me to go over that has to have a gap play, let me know, and I'll be happy to track it, just for giggles. Okay, Boeing, 151.68, up 0.43%. 154.94, 156.96, 158.98. The baseline, 150.93, 146.93, 144.99, and 142.94. 147.27 is that gap, and that is in the window for right now that I'm tracking, so it could very well get closed out this week. And let me clean up this one. This gap, we gapped up. I anticipated it to close to the south side, and it did. No longer a threat at 149.78. Clean that up. Okay, that's it for the two gaps here from the previous week. But what happened elsewhere? I think I have cleaned it up pretty good. I did buy some at 125.45 for my mom. I was up so much, and then all this bad news that emerged with Boeing. They really need to wipe the slate clean, get rid of everyone, clean house, and start over. When you put profits before people, you lose. $173.61. You can have great profits and a great product, but you can't have great profits and a bad product. It doesn't work that way. All right, that's the middle of the trend. And did I draw the baseline for PayPal? I'm digressing here. Yeah, I did. Oh, and then here's the previous week. So 81.85. I'm just being very conservative and going to the middle of the trend. Obviously, if you go to the outer bands, the 2 standard, 3, and 4, you're going to get different targets. I'm just doing it again, just little legs up or down and tracking those. Okay, Boeing. I did draw the line. The next one is Nike. Also punished here, this company. You go woke, you go broke. You have to appeal to the masses, not just one segment of the population, because that will not get you big profits. 76.93, 77.59. I know that I think I read or heard there's a new CEO. I have not kept pace with this one, even though I do own it for my mom. 78.30, 75.57, 74.18, 73.49, 72.82. Okay, the gap to the downside here has not filled at 74.67. Okay, and then this one, 72.67, and we are going in a downward channel on the 5. What about anything else below that? Nope, not right now. Okay, this one will take us up to 77.84, and we'll wipe that out if we get to this level for standard deviations. And then the mother load will take us to roughly 94.42, an area that I have already been and marked out at support and resistance. Okay, and then this one, this is a gap within a gap. This will take us to 89.13. Again, all I'm doing is just taking it in a small micro level here from here, Monday to Friday. That's it. That's all I'm concerned about with this gap and go for the week. And the outer bands could take us down to 70.91. But that will change. Intel. Finally, we are finally making moves. So crazy. This thing has been a slow bleeder, and then finally it got cauterized, and now we are moving up. But the funny thing is, as I've mentioned before, they reported 13.284 billion. The estimate was 13.02 billion, but the earnings per share is in the negative. We did not hit the street level, the estimate, and yet the stock still runs because it's still making money. That's a lot of money still. All right. $26.90. $27.72. Wait, not 77.2. It's, oh, wait. Try this again. Roughly. Let's just say $27.76. $28.21. And roughly $28.62. Okay, we're very close to -2. That's around 26.03, 25.59, 25.16. This gap right here will take us to 29.04. That's the target I've been tracking for weeks and weeks and weeks. And the 1 year price target, I think, isn't, yeah, we hit that already, $31. Please get us there. Okay, I think that's it. Oh, we've got this gap taking us down to 21. No, that's not 21.56. Oh, I'm going to delete this one because I just marked it out but didn't look at where I had previously done it. Okay, this one will take us to 19.36. Voila. And nothing else to the south side. Okay, that's it for Intel, and I think I have two more. Unilever. Should have sold out. It's easier for me to buy than to sell. I have a hard time selling, just like real estate. All my real estate, I have a hard time selling because I don't want to give it up because I'm in it for the long run, and then sometimes it just wipes you out. But I'm still way up. Okay. Right here, 58.36. Oh, wait. I'm going to go to the north side first, which is what I like to do. 59.62, 60.22, 60.83. The middle of the trend is now 58.36 in a downward pattern here. 57.11, 56.48, and 55.87. These are old price targets that we have already met. See, this gap already closed out as well. So this gap taking us down to 60. Oh, Let's just do this one first. This took us down to 60.94, and that touched on Wednesday, the day after the election. Right? And then this gap is still in play. Oh no, excuse me. It also touched on Wednesday. Delete. And then we made our way down, grinding along this line, going sideways, up to resistance, going sideways, trying to hit support down here, didn't make it, going sideways. It's just going sideways, basing barcoding. But the 1-year price target on this one is 64.36, which represents a 9% return from where we are. All right, those levels are done. What about this one? So this is still in play, taking us to 59.52, 61.61, 62.28, and 62. See, all these areas we have to retrace, not even close to getting there. Oh my goodness, look at all these gaps. There's so much potential to the upside. But it's not happening next week because we are still going down, moving farther away from those gap closures. And the last one I want to go over, oh, wait a minute, Unilever. Where was the middle of the trend previously? Oh yeah, right here. So we've stair-stepped our way down. And from the middle of the trend last week to the one for this week will take us down another 4.50% potentially. Okay, on to the next one. We are at the middle of the trend. All right, and then these lines were also previously a middle of the trend. I could delete them, but I haven't. So we will either follow this line downward, or should we be so lucky as to just go sideways, this will be the line, potentially. Right? 15.35, 5.15, I meant 5.35, 5.48, and resistance here as well. I don't anticipate us to get to this level, 5.60 on Monday. And then to the south side, 4.84, 4.71, and roughly 4.58. Let's clean up the gaps. That touched right there on Friday to the downside at 5.02. This one is still in play to the upside at 5.29. And then look at this wick. And then a bounce because this is support here. Didn't quite make it to this level and bounced. So sometimes what I'll do is if I want a stock, but I don't really care if I get it, I will just take it down to here and think, okay, the wick will help me to buy in. And if I don't buy in at that ridiculous level, then I didn't want it in the first place. So that's why I set levels usually at -3 or -4 if I really don't care about getting in. I could take it or leave it. Okay, this gap, we gapped down. I anticipate it to fill to the upside, and it did, taking us to 5.27 there, and then back down to support. That is support, and then grinding up slowly to resistance there. And what about this one? 5.34, we touched right there on the 7th on Thursday. No longer in play, done. And then we've got this one. I tried to buy NEO last week and I didn't get my fill. All right, 5.59 to the upside. And it could potentially touch this bottom level. What else? We need to clean this up. I can see that clearly. So this touched right. What is this? I have to move this line. Yep, out of the way. So there's nothing hiding it. Okay, right there. 551, done. All right, and I'm looking forward to this one and this one for the gap fill at 677. And what is the target now? The target is 676, and then after that, 989. And here's the good news. Even though we are going downward in the channel, the middle of the trend previously was here at 494, and this week we are at 509 for the middle of the trend. So hopefully we can get price to go sideways and then eventually go up. That would be lovely. All right, that does it for me. That is a look at your gap and go trades for the week of November 11th through the 15th. Have a wonderful Veterans Day and a trading week.